Hello everyone, welcome to Tuesday Night Live. It is Tuesday, April 26th. The time is 7:45, which means it's Facebook Live time. Tonight, as you can tell, we will be featuring the New Horizons Designer Series paper. In addition to that, we will also, so here's the Designer Series paper. We will also be using On the Horizon and Grassy Grove. Both of these have coordinating die sets. We will not be using the die set for On the Horizon. Oh, yes, we will. So we're going to be using this. This is a bundle. These products are all in the January to June mini catalog. Hello, Lynette. Hello, Jennifer. You will find the On the Horizon or the New Horizons suite on pages 42 and 43 of the January to June catalog, and then you will find the Grassy Grove bundle on page 47. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set that aside. And this is my current host code, if you want to take a screenshot of that if you need it. And then we've got the On the Horizon along with the Horizon dies. We're going to be using these two pieces out of the Horizon dies on one of our cards, on our first card actually. And then on our second card, we'll be using the Grove dies, and the big die that belongs here is, where did I put that? Oh, I've got it with our card stock. There's a big die that we'll be looking at when we get there. All right, so let's, hello Mary, hello Cynthia, hello Laura. We're just going to jump right in and get going on our first card, which is a relatively simple card. We're going to use some Night of Navy and some Memento Basic Black. We'll be using the On the Horizon bundle with this. We'll also be using the Oceanfront stamp set. This is also in the January to June catalog. Oceanfront, I believe, is carrying over into the new annual catalog. However, On the Horizon and the Horizon dies are not carrying over. So if you like this set, you'll want to get this now. And then we're also going to be using the Pebbles Enamel Shapes. These are also in the current mini catalog, and they are not carrying over either, so be sure and pick those up. All right, let's get started. I'm going to start with a card base of Night of Navy, 5.5 by 8.5, and we've scored that at 4 1/4. So we'll fold and burnish on that score line with our bone folder. And actually, I'm finding if I use my Stampin' Pad on this surface, I get a better result. So let me grab that. Okay, so we've got that. And then we're going to take a piece of the New Horizons paper. And I did forget to pull that piece out, so let's grab it. And while I'm grabbing it, you can take a look at that paper. This is the piece that we want right here. Nope. Hang on. Where did I put that piece? It's this one, right here. This is the piece we want. Okay. This set of paper makes everything easy to make beautiful cards. So we're going to take and we're going to decide where we want this. And we're going to cut this down. So I want this far side here to the left. So I'm going to cut this at 4. And then I'm going to cut it. I want this piece at the bottom, so I'm going to turn it and cut it at 5 1/4. Now, if you wanted a little more sky up there, you could finagle that cutting so that you could get just the right image. But this will work for our purposes for today. And guys, this truly is a pretty simple card. Okay, so you'll also need a piece of smoky slate, just a scrap, and a piece of basic white, again, just a scrap. Okay, so we just need these. And actually, I did put a scrap of that out in my little thing right here. Okay. So this particular piece of basic white is cut to 1 inch and long enough for our die. And on the back, it has adhesive sheet. Okay. So added the adhesive sheet to the back of that. And out of a small scrap of smoky slate, I've cut that mountain die from the Horizon dies. That's the background image, not the detailed image. So we're going to take the detailed image of that and we're going to put that on our basic white. But before we do that, I didn't like the way this was so stark white. So I'm going to grab my blending brush and a piece of scrap paper and a little bit of gray granite. I'm going to ink that up and then I'm going to blend it off. And I'm just going to put a little bit of gray granite on there, just so it's not quite so stark white. Okay. And trust me, you want to do this beforehand. Okay. Much easier to do it beforehand than after. So now I'm going to take my little mountain piece and I'm going to grab my mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss and the plates that go with that, which of course I buried underneath my silicone mats, because why wouldn't you? Okay, so we're just going to set this on here. I'm going to look at the back to make sure I'm getting it in the adhesive, because I don't have my adhesive quite to the edge. This is a scrap that I had amongst my scrap pieces. Put that in there at an angle. Put my top plate on, and I'm going to run this through. And then I'm going to roll it backwards because I have that adhesive sheet attached to the back. And this is a pretty intricate die. Okay, so now I've got my detail to my mountain. I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool And I'm just going to poke this out. Now, if I had my die brush handy, I would do it that way. But it's behind me, and this worked out beautifully. Okay, so this is what we have. Now we can easily add these two pieces to each other. And let me put this die away so I don't lose it. Stick that on my magnet sheet. Okay, thank you for sharing, Jennifer. I really appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to take your pick tool. And I'm just going to lift up that backing, release paper. And because I put that adhesive sheet on there, now my detailed mountain piece is a sticker. And then I can just add these two together. Like so. And I'm going to lift this up and get it attached right there on the edge. And then I'm going to take in with my bone fold to give that a good press. Not too hard, but that's what will make the two pieces adhere well to each other. All right, so now I've got a set of mountains for my card. Let's go ahead and add some stamping on here. Okay, so we're going to take from on the horizon here, we're going to take this Grassy image and some soft suede ink, which I have in the other bin. And I'm going to ink this up. I'm going to stamp it over here on the right. And I'm going to lift it up into this pale papaya area here. And stamp that down. And then from Oceanfront, there's a small grass piece that looks a lot like this one on the horizon. So I want to add that over here on the right, just like so. Okay. Then I'm going to grab a sentiment. And that comes from the On the Horizon, relax and enjoy your day. And I'm just going to stamp this up here in Night of Navy. I'm going to let that sit for just a minute to let that ink soak in, so that we get a good image. And then we're going to take our memento, and also from the horizons, On the Horizon, there is this stamp with birds. And let's see. Some of these are flying up and some of them are flying down. So you decide how you want it to go. And I'm just going to stamp these up here and let them sit for a moment. And then I'm going to grab that scrap paper. I'm going to ink that up one more time. And I'm going to hit just these three on the left of my stamp. Let that soak in for a minute. And there are my birds. Okay, this card is almost finished. That's how quick and easy you can make a card with this set. So we're going to go ahead now and we're going to attach this to our card base using a little bit of Stampin' Seal. We'll just center that up. Okay. Then we're going to take this mountain. I'm going to take some more Stampin' Seal. And I'm going to grab my silicone mat here. And anywhere the ink goes above or beyond, I'm just going to roll that back into place. Then I want to set this right here along this, kind of looked like a little glacier type thing to me on this paper. So I want to set my mountain right there. All right, and now we'll add our final touch, which is the pebbled enamel dots. And we'll use our Take Your Pick tool. And I'm going to grab one of these oblong ones and I'm going to slide. I'll put this right down here. And then I'm going to grab one of these larger pebbles here in the brown again. And I'm going to put this down here. Doesn't want to go where I want it to go. Okay, well, that looks good to me. And then finally I'm going to take one more, the smaller one, and I'm just going to stick that down here. And then we'll add another one of the longer ones over here and another one of the smaller ones right there. Okay. And that, my friends, is the front of our card. That quick, that easy, yet very striking. Okay, so hopefully you liked that project. All right, now let's see. For the inside of this card, we'll grab a piece of basic white, 3 5/8 by 4 7/8, and we're going to take that soft suede ink again, and I'm going to take that same image here, and this time I'm going to stick this in the center. Okay. Now, that's as far as I'm going to go on that, because I could use this for a birthday card or a Father's Day card or a retirement card. So I'm just going to leave that until I know what the use will be. And there you have it. Okay. And for the envelope, let's see if I pulled one of those out. Doesn't appear that I did. I actually designed this card before I left for the beach. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll ink this up one more time. And this time I'm going to put my soft suede over here. I'm going to grab that other piece from Oceanfront, set it over here, and now we have a matching envelope. All right, so there is card number 1. Ah, thanks. Hi, Elaine. Glad you could join us. Isn't that a beautiful card with very little effort? Okay, so we've got that done. Just cleaning these stamps real quick, so I think I've got to use some of these again. All right, so there's that. Now those are out of our way, and we can move on to card number 2. All right, set those aside. Get that out of the way. And card number 2, I've pre-done some of it for you. We're going to use a new product that will be available in the brand new Stampin' Up! Annual Catalog, being released on May 3rd to customers, and this is called Stylish Dies. This is kind of like our stitched shapes dies that we had before, but you get more circles, more squares, and then you get these banner pieces. And the cool thing about these is that they're stitched on the outside and pierced on the inner ring. So your negative will be stitched, but the positive piece is pierced. So they have a dual purpose. Okay. So we've got those. And we've got the Grassy Grove bundle. And again, we'll be using the New Horizons Designer Series paper, and you're going to pick which one we're going to use. We're also going to be pulling in the Beauty of Friendship stamp set. Okay, this stamp set is carrying over into the new annual catalog, but the friendship dies that went along with it are not. So, and I did not check to see if these were still in stock, so if you're interested, you'll want to go right away and look to see if those are still here. We aren't using the dies, we're just using the stamp set today. Okay, so let's get started on this one. Okay, so what you're going to need for this one is, I think, I'm not 100% sure, I'm going to use a card base in Evening Evergreen 5.5 by 8.5. And then we're going to need a piece of soft succulent cardstock. And I've already run this piece. This piece is 4 by 5.25. I've already run it through the die cut machine with the largest of the Grassy Grove dies. And this is going to make this makes this beautiful piece. And all I did was try and center this on the 4 by 5.25 as best I could. And this is what we get when we pop that out. Okay. Now I'm going to set this aside so it doesn't get lost. It's a pretty big die, but you never know. And we have some work to do on this. So we're going to go ahead and grab out our stamps and our ink colors. And the first thing we're going to do is grab a scrap piece of basic white. I can get my fingers on it here. And I'm going to take the deer from Grassy Grove and some soft suede ink. And I'm going to ink up my deer. And I'm going to stamp him down. Let the ink soak into the paper for a minute. Beautiful. Okay, now we're done with that for the minute. We can set our deer aside. And we're going to pull out our scrap paper. And our, you know what, let me get a clean piece of scrap paper just so it doesn't distract you all. Okay, here. I'm going to do a lot of stamping off, so I want that other thicker paper underneath. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I didn't want green tree trunks. So I'm going to take my SU 100 Natural Tone Stamping Blend. It's the darkest color. These will be available beginning May 3rd. And I'm going to color in my tree trunks. What I suggest is that you go first and cut off all of the places that you want your trunks to stop so that you don't run it too far. So like I'll go here to the bottom and I'm going to come up here at an angle and I'm just going to put a little mark there and there. And then when I go to color in my branches or my trunks, and my branches, I guess, I will not go too far. Okay, for these larger pieces, I'm going to get out my brush tip. Because this is colored cardstock, you may want to go over it more than once, depending on how dark you want your trunks and your branches. And again, I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to block off what I don't want to be the brown color. Like so. And then I'll fill in the little ones with my writing tip, bullet tip. And then I'll go back and pull out my brush tip. Okay. And just be careful not to go too far or too fast. But I want good coverage. Now, I won't lie, I attempted to cut these in 2 different colors and piece them in, and that was just a nightmare for me. So then my brain came up with this idea to use these Stampin' Blends markers to color in those trunks. Okay, so now I have brown tree trunks. Okay, so let's move on to adding some texture into our background here. We're going to take some garden green ink, and from Beauty of Friendship, I've pulled these two stamps of the treetops. That's these smaller two. And I'm going to start with this one here, which is the background stamp, and then this is the more detailed. So we're going to start with the background stamp in Garden Green. And I'm just going to confirm I've got the stamp I want, and I do. So I'm going to start with Garden Green, and I'm just going to start stamping this particular image all over to ensure that I get leaves in all of these spots. Don't worry if you go over the dark of the brown. It does not really show, and it certainly doesn't look green, so if you do get some on there, it's just going to give you a little bit of texture in your tree trunk. And I'm going to do this at the same thing on the bottom in the Garden Green. I'm just going all around this piece, just so it's not so plain and it looks more like a grove of trees. All right, so this is where we're at so far. Now we're going to put away our Garden Green and our background stamp. And we're going to get some Evening Evergreen and the detailed tree. And I'm just going to take this and stamp right over where I've already been, just to add a little bit more dimension and texture to my trees. But this time, I'm not going to go to the bottom. Okay, going to the side a little bit, and go in the centerpiece there. And notice how I'm turning my stamp. Oops. Hang on. I know me, and I'll have that Evening Evergreen where I don't want it. So I'm going to clean that off real quick. I'm going to ink that up again. And then I'm just going to stamp right there. Okay? Now, if you don't like how much stamping you got there, take your Stamp and Blend again. Go right back over the top. And you won't even know you were there. All right, so there's our background piece. Pretty cool, huh? Took that from a plain piece of soft succulent to a grove of trees with just a little bit of stamps and ink. All right, now here is where we need to make some decisions. I made multiple pieces of this card. I'm going to show you my first card I made. This is the first card I made. Uses that deer, which we still need to die cut. I did this originally on basic white and colored in, and then I used Garden Green and Old Olive to get this card. While I like it, it wasn't quite what I was looking for. So I moved on to, hang on, I've got another piece in here. I moved on to Garden Green cardstock and colored my branches with the same marker, and then I stamped in Garden Green and Old Olive, and this is what I got. And then I came up with this one, and this was actually my favorite. So let me know which one is your favorite and which one we should use. I've got both of these ready to go, so you tell me which one you like. going to refresh this to see if there's new comments coming through. Oh, yep, see, I missed some comments. Thank you. Thanks, guys. All right. So, do you like the garden green or the soft succulent that we just stamped? Jennifer says garden green. Succulents. Lane. Anybody else? Soft succulent for Lynette and Laura. All right, it looks like the soft succulents have it. All right, so we'll set this one aside. Now, this is the paper that I originally used in the background here, and I used this upper corner of this piece, but we also could use this meadow piece. Or the Blackberry Bliss piece. Which one do you like? So you've got Blackberry Bliss, Meadow, or Subtle. Yeah, this one does look like a lake at the bottom. Okay, so I've got two Blackberry Bliss. Any other preferences? Not that one. This is the Blackberry Bliss. I love the brightness that's in this one. How pretty it looks. Okay, so I think this is the one that's winning. So let's go ahead and I'm going to cut this one. Again, you could do this however you want. You can have more Blackberry Bliss, more of the sunset or sunrise in the background, or you could move it down and have some lake in there. We're going to take it right up here in this corner. Okay. So I'm going to cut this slightly less than 4 inches by just a 1/16. Okay. And then I'm going to cut it a 1/16 less than 5 1/4. Okay. And there's a method to my madness here. So I'm going to bring in my silicone sheet again. I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to run some Stampin' Seal. You could use Tombow. I'm going to use the Stampin' Seal. And anything that runs over, I'm just going to pull back on itself. I'm staying right at the edge because I don't want any tape runner on the inside. So I'm just going to pull that back on itself. Okay. Then I'm going to grab a little bit of liquid glue. And I'm just going to put some dots here and there. I don't want a lot. I just want to hold this down a little bit in the center. to secure it. And that's really all I need. And I'm keeping this open here for a reason. Okay, so then I'm just going to take this piece and I'm going to turn it over. And I'm going to center it up on my soft succulent. And remember, I left myself a 1/16 of an inch to make it easier on myself. And then I'm just going to burnish that down. And when I turn it over, my pieces together with very little problems. Okay. Now we need to cut out our deer. So we're going to grab the die for that out of the Grove dies. And it has several little deer that you could use some silhouettes. I'm going to use this stamp deer, so I'm going to trim that out. There's also some trees that you can stamp, and these will cut out with the trees. And then there's a border piece that you can use. It's a really nice set of dies. And it makes quick, easy cards, especially with this new Horizons DSP. If you haven't gotten that and you like to make any kind of nature cards, that is the best paper we have ever had for that type of card. And these will make fantastic masculine cards, sympathy cards, all kinds of things, quick and easy. Okay, so we've got our deer. And we'll just take that out. Put our die back on our board. And then I'm going to take my deer and I'm going to grab some mini dimensionals. And I'm going to put one up on the head here, and if you position it just so it fits perfectly, put one here on the back and then one down here at the middle. I'm purposefully leaving the feet without any dimensionals. And again, I'm just going to take a dot of glue. Okay. And then I'm going to add this. I'm going to pop this in here. If I can get it to lift up. I'm just going to slide that in there like that, so that she looks like she's behind the grass there, and give her a press. And now we can add this to our card base, and let's decide if we're using the Evening Evergreen. Let's see how that looks. Yep, I think that's the ticket, so let's go ahead. And add this to our card base. Let me get that out of the way. We'll just center this up. Okay. So there we go. Now, need a piece of the soft succulent, and we're going to take the All That dies right here. And we'll take this longest banner piece and cut out a banner. And we'll just throw that on there and run it through real quick. I cut one, but I'm not sure where I put it. So we'll just quickly cut another one. And then from the Beauty of Friendship stamp set, for this one, I'm going to take Evening Evergreen and the Thinking of You. And I'm just going to stamp this right in here on our banner. And let that ink soak in for a few seconds. And there we have our greeting. Okay. And then I'm just going to add this to the top of our card. But before I do that, I'm going to give that just a little bit of a curl. Not too much, just a bit. And then I'm going to take another one of the Stampin' Dimensionals. I'm going to stick one big one in the center. And then I'm just going to take a little bit of Stampin' Seal . Not quite at the ends because I want those ends to stand up a little bit. Oh, helps if you take the backing off the dimensional, Teresa. Okay, and there's our card front. All right, so for the inside of this card, from the Grassy Grove stamp set, we're going to take this big piece. And let's see, did I grab the inside? No, I did not. Oh. We're going to ink this up in Garden Green. And what did I do with my scrap paper? Right here. I'm going to ink this. Because this is a larger stamp, I'm going to ink it upside down so I can ensure that I've got everything inked. And I'm going to put this in the correct landscape orientation. And then I'm just going to stamp this down at the bottom. Okay. And there is the inside of our card. And again, I'm going to leave that sentiment free because I could use this for a sympathy card or a get well card or any number of things that I'm thinking of someone for, or just as a just because card. So I'm going to put that inside, And there's our card. Now for the final piece, I need an envelope. And I didn't pre-do this because I wanted to show you exactly how I did it. So I've got my envelope. And I've got my Beauty of Friendship stamp set. And I'm going to, I've cut a mask. Actually, I'm going to show you how I cut a mask. Just because not everybody knows how to do the masking. Let me grab my masking paper, which I moved and I cleaned up the other day. Stampin' Up! Will have masking paper in the new annual catalog. So here's a piece of masking paper. And I'm just going to stamp. Again, I'm going to use my garden green that I used before. And I'm going to stamp this down on my masking paper, which is just like a sticker. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and rough cut this out because it's easier for me. Gets away a bunch of the excess. When you're cutting for a mask, you want to cut inside the line, not outside. You don't want to leave anything white, and you don't want to cut right on the line. You want to cut just inside. And the reason that you want to do that is that then you won't end up with a halo when you stamp over the mask. It will look like whatever you stamped behind, stamped over the top, really fully meets the inside of your design. Okay, so I've cut that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stamp a garden green. I'm going to stamp the outline of that tree again, that tree top. Make sure I've got my envelope right side up. And then I'm just going to stamp this down right here. Let it soak in for a few seconds. Okay. And then I'm going to take my Evening Evergreen and my detailed stamp. And I'm going to line that up. And I'm going to stamp that down. Okay. It's a beautiful tree. Now we need our tree trunk. And with this particular set, the tree trunk, you would stamp right over the top of that. Or you would stamp it down and stamp the other piece over the top. But what happens when you do that then is your branches all really show. And I didn't like that effect. So that's why I've used the mask. So I'm going to take and get my mask apart here. Just going to work that edge. And lift that up. And then I'm going to place it right over the top of my image. And because I cut that inside the line, you should be able to see the image outside of that area. Okay. Now I'm not too concerned about the top part of this because I'm going to put my trunk at the bottom. So I want to make sure that I've got my stamp showing below. And then I'm going to take my soft suede ink and ink up my tree trunk. Okay. And then I'm going to stamp this over the top. I'm going to line that up. I'm going to give it a good press. Let it sit and soak for a second. And then I'm going to lift that up. Okay. And now when I take off that mask, my trunk looks like it's actually inside the tree. Okay. And then I can put this back on the masking paper backing. Put this in with my stamp set, and I have it for multiple uses. Okay. So there you have the second card. Using the New Horizons Designer Series paper, Grassy Grove, and Beautiful Friendship stamp sets. I think these are beautiful, and you know, like this first one that I made, it makes a great Father's Day card. This Happy Dad Day, by the way, comes from Happy and Heartfelt. It's this stamp set here. I love this stamp set. I love the font in it. And it has lots of wonderful sayings that are good for both the inside and the outside. So with this Happy Dad Day, I took Happy Dad Day and all day your way. And that's what I put inside it. Okay, so I've got a lovely Father's Day card now, already ready to go. Happy and Heartfelt is not carrying over into the annual catalog. So when the mini catalog runs out in June, that stamp set will be gone. All right. So let's bring back in our cards that we made so you can take a look at those again. And then I'll be back next week, which I believe next week is day before catalog launch day. So we will have some fun, and I'm not sure what we're going to be doing for next week, but whatever it will be good. And we'll be having fun, and that's what counts. Okay. Thank you guys. I'm so glad you love those. Thanks. All right. Until next week then, I hope everybody has a great week. Be happy, stay healthy, and happy stamping. Good night.